to the Dawgs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Josh All, your host today, and I've got Kenny Mack from the Great White North. Kenny, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, I am super happy to be back on. I don't know where I was just talking about with you. It's super smoky up right here right now. And so my allergies are just getting by. These glasses are helping me see, but they're also covering up some red here, I think.
So if Kenny's sniffling and a little nasally over the microphone here, now you guys understand why. So we want to kind of do what we did last week. Couldn't get Justin on here today because, gosh darn it, he had just had to go to Myrtle Beach with the family this week. How dare him?
Wow.
But, yeah, so me and Kenny will handle the OTA Week 2 breakdown for you guys, our full reactions from everything this week. You know, I did a little bit, on Thursday just to recap a couple things, but again, wanted to get an episode in here today talking about the full week of OTAs, everything wrapped up here on Friday. And there's just some news and notes to dive into. We'll talk about, of course, the quarterbacks and the tracker, Shedeur, and all the goodness with the quarterback position. We're going to dive into wide receivers and just some other positional needs for the Browns potentially on this episode. Before we get into it, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, tap the notification bell, give us a 5-star review on audio platforms. We really appreciate that. And want to remind everybody, because it's coming up in 2 weeks. So the 21st, June 21st, from noon to 5 at Wabash Lanes in New Philadelphia, Ohio, is the Tuscarawas County Browns Backers Bowling with Legends event. So if you guys like bowling, if you like Browns, if you like Browns alumni, if you just want to get out and go to an event and do something on that Saturday and you're, within driving distance of New Philadelphia, Ohio, check it out. Head over to the Tuscarawas County Browns Backers Facebook page for all the information and details over there. We're going to be there live streaming from the event. I think we're actually going to be set up like down on the bowling alleys or by a ball return somewhere down there inside all the action. So come, you guys can hang out and meet us. You guys can hang out and meet the alumni. Ralph Hawley, current defensive tackle for the Browns, will be there. It's just going to be a ton of fun. Last thing, fantasy football leagues for the Dog Pack are open. Signups are available and the leagues are filling up. So head to jointhedawgs.com. Right now, join the Patreon. It's just $5 a month. Get in there. Get on the registration list for our fantasy football leagues this season. We're like I said, filling them up already. The cutoff's going to be like August 22nd. But again, if we have an even number of leagues created, filled up, and ready to go on August 15th, we're just going to cut it off then. So if you want to play, get in now. Don't miss out. Don't wait. Jointhedawgs.com. Play with me, Blake, Justin. Kenny's in there. He runs a league, maybe running 2 leagues this year. We'll see how many we get, but we want as many as possible. So head over to jointhedawgs.com, join the Patreon, sync up with the private Discord, all that good stuff. It's a ton of fun, great community, and come see if you guys can beat us at some fantasy football. All right, let's kick things off, Kenny, with a discussion around the wide receiver position. Some news, and I mentioned this on the episode the other day, but I want to get your perspective and have a deeper discussion about this position. So there were reports from OTAs, at least the session that was open to the media on Wednesday. Cedric Tillman was watching practice from the sideline, so I'm not sure. There was no clarification or anything about that. Don't know if it was injury related or if he was just not, practicing that day for whatever reason. But Tillman, not on the field. Deontay Johnson, we talked about him last week, skipping the first week of OTAs. He skipped this week of OTAs, so he was not present. And David Bell was not participating either. He's still recovering from his hip surgery. So I'm not sure. I guess we could look it up, or maybe about David Bell's timeline. I'm not sure when he's projected to be available, if it's going to be next week at mandatory camp or if it won't be till training camp, whatever. But those are like the 3 guys after Jerry Jeudy that you would think are on the depth chart. It'd be Tillman, Johnson, maybe David Bell just because of seniority and all that kind of stuff. So, we're already kind of operating without these. I get it's OTAs and all that stuff and whatever, but to me, it just reiterates how thin this group is. What do you think?
Yeah, it's way too thin. I mean, you already have Deontay Johnson not participating in OTAs, and you would think this guy's on a new team and would want to get in, learn the playbook. Then after that, I mean, all these highlights that you see, whether it's Shedeur, whether it's Dylan Gabriel, even if you're looking at Flacco, you're looking at the receivers, like who's catching this? McDonald, Caden Davis, like all these guys. And it's fantastic that these guys are getting these reps. And I love Luke Floria from Kent State. Like, I mean, man, imagine if he's the next Julian Edelman with finding him out of Kent State. But I mean, we need some hardcore receivers that can get in and out of their breaks to make Stefanski's offense work. We need guys and just great route runners. I mean, I believe Amari Cooper's still out there. I saw something from Pro Football Sports Network. They're like one free agent that every team should sign. And I saw Gabe Davis and I was like, what? Like, that guy isn't a precision guy at all. I mean, if we get anybody and it's going to be a veteran, why wouldn't you look at Amari unless he completely burned his bridges? Then I'm taking a look. Maybe Amari's done. Maybe he's going to retire. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with that guy. Now, we've seen some reports that there's trade possibilities, but that's just conjecture at this point. Like, we don't really know if the Saints want to get rid of Olave. There seems to be some rumblings, but there's nothing concrete. We're also looking at a couple other guys, the receiver from the Houston Texans. I can't remember his name right now, but we're looking at maybe possibly getting him.
John Mechie? Was it Mechie?
Mechie, thank you.
Okay, because I'm thinking, so wait, who on the Texans is open for discussions? But okay, Mechie would be one. Yeah,
it's Mechie, but again, I mean, is he really available, or is this just fans talking? Is this like the quote insiders talking?
Let me cut you right there with the Mechie discussion, because that's interesting to me. Not that John Mechie has had anything even resembling sort of prolific NFL career so far. I mean, he battled the leukemia as a rookie, overcame that, and he missed that whole season. And then he's just kind of been buried on the depth chart. Hasn't been the most productive for them. But, they had the emergence of Nico Collins. They had Tank Dell. They brought in Stephon Diggs last year. Like, they had their top guys. And then in the draft this year, now they still have Nico, but they went and they drafted Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, and they signed Christian Kirk, or traded for Christian Kirk from the Jaguars. So their wide receiver core is very deep. And I think a guy like John Mechie, maybe that's why. And I haven't seen too much of the speculation, but if there is fan speculation about Mechie, that would be my guess why, because I think he's expendable on their depth chart.
Yeah, he's a guy that you'd want to develop. But again, that doesn't get us any closer to where we want to be. We need some established veterans that can run routes. The two guys that I've seen the most of, I mentioned Olave. Again, it's one of these things where people think he doesn't want to be on the team. The other one was a report, and it just indicated that McLaren was experiencing frustration over his contract and the Washington Commanders, leading to that speculation that he may be traded. But it's just a rumor at this point. But if there's some way that we can pull off a trade for Terry and Chris, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think Olave, I would write him off. The Olave situation to me sounds very similar to the Denver Broncos with Jerry Jeudy situation in 2023 when the Browns tried to trade for him. Whenever they had picked up his fifth-year option, there were still high hopes for him in their offense and all that kind of stuff. And the asking price was too much for the Browns. They weren't willing to do it. 2023 plays out, and he doesn't have that great of a year. Now he's on that fifth-year option, and they were more willing to deal him. And the Browns went and got him for much less a year later. So Olave would be a guy maybe to table that discussion for the Browns till next offseason. I think the Saints are without him, they got nobody to really lead that wide receiver core. The Terry McLaurin one's interesting to me just because he is older. And I think with the Browns situation right now, the cap situation and trade assets and that kind of thing, I don't know if they're really in the market for a high-profile younger receiver who's going to come in here looking for that second contract that's going to be big, like Olave would be, like Jeudy was last year. I think it would be a guy like Terry McLaurin's like, hey, you're 30, well, we would trade for you, but I don't think it would be you don't have to give like a first or second to go get Terry McLaurin the way George Pickens was traded for a third? Wasn't it? So that kind of thing. I think so. You don't have to give up anywhere near to get McLaurin, I wouldn't think, because of the age of the other guy that I've kind of been, because I was kind of going through teams, looking at expiring contracts and everything, older players that could come in here and fill a role, would be Judy's former teammate, Cortland Sutton from the Denver Broncos, because he's going to be 29, 30 years old this year, and he's going into the last year of his contract. They've got a very deep group of pass catching options in Denver. They've got, guys like Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin. They just drafted Pat Bryant. They've got Devon Vele. They just brought in RJ Harvey at the running back position. They signed Evan Ingram at tight end. Like, they've got players at the pass catching, weaponry. So an expiring older contract guy like Cortland Sutton could make sense on a cheap, I don't think it would take a lot to acquire in draft capital, kind of the same with Terry. And then, I don't think you're looking at a massive extension for a guy at that age.
Could you see something like maybe an Amari Cooper trade where we take on some salary and then it's a fifth that we give up for him? And the Pickens trade was a third round, just so we're clear on that one. But we talked about this last year, trying to get him and how he would be a fantastic fit for Kevin Stefanski's offense. And now just you want to push the ball down in this intermediate, longer zone. He would be a great 50-50 ball guy too. You need some of those guys for the end zone along with David Njoku, and they'll help you score touchdowns because, man, we did not get a lot of those last year.
No, we didn't. And I was just curious about Mechie because I know, again, the NFL stats have not been anything to talk about. But if you go back and you look at his college career at Alabama, I mean, as a sophomore in 2020, he caught 55 balls for 916 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then followed that up his junior season in 21 with 96 receptions for 1,142 yards and 8 touchdowns. I mean, he had a fantastic final season in college. So he's a talented guy who's really yet to boom, but he's also, I don't think, really had the opportunity yet, given his health and just the depth chart.
And where the depth chart is now, we know that these OTA touches are so, vital for these guys to develop. We have that for him right now. We have the ability to get him the ball a lot, get him learning. I just don't know with him, is he a precise route runner? Is he just a go guy? Like what he does very well, and I would have to look more into him. But I know it's a guy that people have been mentioning because of the depth chart. The only other guy, we spoke about him just before we got on, I know people have been talking about him. I know the top dog, Hanford Dixon's been talking about him. That would be Keenan Allen, but I don't see him wanting to come here. It's an option as always because he is a free agent. But you think somebody that can get open the way he does would want to go with a team that he thinks has a little bit more Super Bowl readiness than our team.
And a quarterback that can get him the ball consistently and help him end his career on a high note. And the situation in Cleveland doesn't mean it couldn't happen here. I mean, obviously we know Joe Flacco can support a wide receiving core pretty well, but there's nothing that says Joe Flacco is playing an entire season if he even does become the week 1 starter, which is obviously still up in the air. They're competing for the spot. Yeah. So there's one guy on the roster though. So we're kind of talking about, free agents, possible trades and all that kind of stuff. But there's one guy on the roster that, from watching the video clips, watching the reels from these practice sessions, both the ones that have been posted by the beat reporters and the ones that the Browns are posting themselves, there seems to be one guy that I'm seeing, at least this past week, who's constantly been on the receiving end of some nice passes other than Jerry Jeudy. And that is Jamari Thrash. The passes that I saw on the clips, I mean, we're talking, he's catching passes from Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, so that's clearly first team reps. We know that. So is Jamari Thrash acting as the de facto wide receiver 2 right now at OTAs with these other, with Tillman sideline and Johnson and Bell not there? Is it Jeudy and then Thrash? So I wanted to go back and look because they drafted him in the 5th round last year. He had, I think, 7 total targets on the season, but I keep cautioning people not to make an entire evaluation on any of the players, specifically the linemen is what I've been talking about, over last year's performance, because the offense was so bad. The offense was the worst we've ever seen, and everybody looked significantly worse in that offense. So was Jamari Thrash just another victim of that? And I wanted to go back and look and see, okay, what was his last year in college? How did he do? And I mean, this was a guy who had 62 receptions, 848 yards, 6 touchdowns. But the deeper metrics, he had 418 yards were after the catch. So half of his yardage came after the catch. He's a good yak player. He had 2.35 yards per route run. That's pretty nice. 11.1 ADOT. I think that there could be a role for Jamari Thrash. We just unfortunately didn't get to see hardly any of him at all last year. But what do you think about Jamari? This episode is sponsored by Omaha Steaks. Browns fans, that countdown is on. Less than a week now until Father's Day. And if you've been putting off the gift giving until the last minute, let me help you guys out. Dads want steak. Just get the dads in your life Father's Day gift packages from Omaha Steaks. And there's still time. Get your orders in today. This is what I do for my dad and my grandpa every single year, and they absolutely love it. Because every steak is perfectly aged to maximize its tenderness, and it's hand-cut by master butchers, plus the grass-fed, grain-finished beef has more marbling for exceptional flavor, and they also have mouth-watering burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, dessert, and easy-to-prepare comfort food when you're in a hurry. So this Father's Day, give Dad the world's best steak experience with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for guaranteed perfect gifts that deliver legendary quality, and for an extra $35 off, use promo code BARK at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code BARK, B-A-R-K, at checkout. See site for details.
Since 1989, Mount Hope Fence has set the standard in outdoor living. From decks and railings to fences and patios, we've got you covered. Our lineup features top brands like TimberTech, AlumaGuard, Preferred Railing, and Unilock, along with our own premium Duralux vinyl products. For over 30 years, we've partnered with contractors ensuring reliable job site delivery. Discover quality and excellence in all things outdoors with Mount Hope Fence.
It'd be tough to evaluate him because, I mean, you got into a situation where with Deshaun Watson, he was really a one-read guy at the point that he was playing, and he wasn't very good. If he could have lit it up at all, maybe most of those receptions came when Jameis was in for his cup of coffee. And then you go back down to DTR, which was worse than what Deshaun was performing on the field. Why even put him in at that point? So, yes, he can run a precise route. That's why we drafted him. We know that Steve Smith Sr. was super high on this guy and thought that he would have a bigger role in Cleveland. And it's based on what I've seen. I've seen all the same highlights you have. I did notice that number 80 was catching a ton of balls, and he's making taking a huge advantage of the situation with Deontay. So maybe we can thank Deontay if he has a great season and he doesn't show up or ball out. But Thrash is getting his opportunities, and he's going forward with it. So the main thing is we got to see what these guys can do in the preseason.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was just pulling up his Jamari Thrash's NFL draft profile from last year before he was selected. His strengths, footwork in the early stages of his release is smooth and sudden, able to rip off route cuts at tight angles, possesses second gear for mid-route separation. Those are things that fit this offense with Kevin Stefanski. He's got above average ball tracking and pace adjustment to bring in deep passes, and does a nice job of uncovering during quarterback scramble mode. So, yeah, he's just a guy that obviously I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, Jamari Thrash, breakout player for 2025. But at the same time, I'm not going to write him off completely just based on basically a nothing burger as a rookie in that pathetic POS offense that Ken Dorsey was running.
Man, when I heard you talk about those traits, I thought you were talking about Jerry Jeudy there for a second. Like, he seems very, very similar to him, especially with the suddenness and the takeoff and the intermediate routes. As far as tracking the ball, I don't know if you can compare those traits, but he did sound a little bit like Jeudy. Maybe his body composition is too, even knowing that Jeudy has put on a couple extra pounds as well. Yeah,
I mean, he's 6 foot, 188, or at least that's what he was listed coming out. He ran a 4.46 40. Trying to see like the weaknesses. Catch space gets snatched up due to a lack of play strength. So basically what they say is he makes what he lacks in play strength, at least coming out of college, he makes up for with his speed and his route running. He can lose focus when dealing with contact inside the route. He did have I think like 8 drops or something that last year in college was a knock on him.
Right.
He allows throws to get on top of him, turn into drops, and he lacks hand strength to finish catches through contact. But again, if you're able to run your routes and create separation, and the quarterback, this is why it's so big. This is why The timing and the accuracy is so important for these guys. Get the ball out on time and on target. Put it where the receiver can get it and get yards after the catch. A guy like Jamari Thrash could surprise this year.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, obviously we drafted him for a reason. Main thing was the fit for the timing style of offense that we have. So he's taking advantage of his opportunities. Like I said, let's see what he can do in training camp when it comes up, and then into preseason, and see if he can separate himself from the seconds and get some one time.
Yeah, I would love to see that because, you know, David Bell, again, coming off the hip injury, had surgery and everything, so he's recovering. And he's never been impressive, you know, and he's been around now for a while. Michael Woods, you know, had the Achilles injury a couple years ago. He's a bigger body guy, but again, he was a 6th-round pick. I just never really flashed too much, and he's had some opportunity to do so as well. Jamari Thrash is kind of still that unknown, and I'd love to see him in the offense in which he was intended to play in. Is Kevin Stefanski's? I don't think he was the fit. Actually, nobody was a fit for whatever Ken Dorsey was trying to do last year. So I'm not sitting here with super high hopes like, oh, I'm banking on Jamari Thrash, but I'm cautiously optimistic to see what he can do in Kevin's offense, which we know is way more productive.
Yeah. I mean, I still want to see more out of Said Till, but I think we definitely have to pick up another receiver somehow through trade is, I think, the avenue, because I don't think the guys that are in free agency that are available, I think their sights are set on another, maybe a little bit more winning than what's perceived at this point for the Browns right now. Yeah.
No, I agree with you on that. So some other guys, I know like Greg Newsome was missing from week 1 of OTAs. Did he have a baby or something?
I know that a baby was expected. I don't know if he actually had that or that was the reason why he missed it, or maybe it was one last hurrah with his partner before he came into camp.
Right.
I did see him break up a pass in camp, and he looks like he is your typical rah-rah guy, bringing everybody up to another level, and everybody was having fun with him from all the footage that I've seen.
Yeah, so Greg Newsome back at OTAs here in week 2. Again, he did have something going, like a family thing, something for the first week. But I think it's interesting that at OTAs already, we've got the entire secondary. I mean, Delpit was there, and then you've got Newsome, Ward, and Emerson. Like, these guys are all there already, which is great for the quarterbacks, in my opinion. You got, especially the guys taking the first team reps against them, because you're immediately getting the best looks from the other side of the ball. And, next week will be very interested to see how next week goes, because all the veterans have to report this week. It's mandatory minicamp. We're going to have the full defensive line. We're going to have everybody at the linebacker spot. We'll have all our receivers back. David will be back. So the clips and highlights will be a little different starting this week.
Yeah, I'm happy that all the secondary is there, and I think they were a huge problem last year. Communication has been a problem that reared its ugly head from like 2-3 years ago under Joe Woods. So when you have your defensive coordinator come out, as he did, 2-3 days ago in his press conference, say we're a safety-heavy team, the safeties better be out there, and the defensive backs better be communicating with them. We also know that, along with Miles, Denzel could have a hell of a year this year. He got his hands on a ton of balls. He had a ton of pass breakups. Now, the biggest thing is to make this a better record. We need to catch those balls, man.
I'm sorry. You said he put his hands on a lot of balls, and I'm just such a child. I'm such a freaking child. I know I'm not the only one who laughed.
I know when I said that, but I was like, there's no way I could get around that. I'm like, he did. He had his hands on the balls. What can you do?
Somebody watching, I know people watching, driving in their car, whatever. I know you guys chuckled a little bit. Come on, be with me now. Don't.
Yeah, absolutely. But getting back to the safety situation, how do we really know what it's going to be like? Delpit's there because he's going to be more of a free safety instead of in the box. Then you got Rayshawn Jenkins, who is supposed to be your box guy.
Right.
And then you got Kaziz, I believe I pronounced his name right.
Kaziz, yeah.
Kaziz, he's going to be like your 3 safety, because Jim Schwartz basically runs a 3 safety look all the time. So we need that solid. And I'm always still very surprised that I know we got 2 quarterbacks. I know I was banging the door for 2 running backs. I would have liked to see the safety drafted, based on where the room was at the time. And I know we got the veterans in now that we just signed that I just mentioned, but we'll see kind of what happens with this room.
Let me ask you this. It just came to me when you mentioned the safety room and drafting a guy. Remember how much you liked Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame?
Yes, I did.
And he was on the board when the Browns drafted Dylan Gabriel at 94.
Yes.
Do you think that comes back to haunt us in any way?
At this point, based on what I've read, I would say yes, because I really don't understand how Dylan Gabriel fits into what we're doing based on what I'm reading. I see Joe Flacco starting the year, and based on if Shedeur Sanders can run an under the center play action scheme with his back, when he play actions, his back's to the defense, and then he's got to read it. If he's very good at that, then he's going to take over. So I feel like those 2 guys are like the tier of running backs, quarterbacks is what I want to say, that are going to kind of be together. And I know I said it was Kenny Pickett because in my head, when I first read about Pickett, I thought, he's kind of like the quarterbacks that Tommy Rees had at Notre Dame. And doing more research, I saw that there's actually, what was his name? I want to say his last name was Cohen. He was their quarterback. He's very similar to Flacco. He's very similar to Shedeur Sanders. And they had a very good offense. So maybe that's kind of more the avenue that I'm seeing where it goes. So if Shedeur, in a long-winded explanation, if Shedeur materializes and he surpasses Dylan, and then Xavier Watts does what he did in university, which is create turnovers, which is what I want to help us improve our record, I will be very disappointed.
Are you talking about Jack Cohen?
Jack Cohen. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. From Notre Dame. So yeah. And we'll get into the full quarterback discussion here in a minute, but I'm with you on what you're saying. And I know when the draft happened and the Browns selected Gabriel and all the information came out about how much time they invested in him and nobody knew about it and they kind of kept it under wraps and he was really their guy from the start other than Cam Ward, yada, yada, yada. It was easy to explain why they did it and it made sense. But as things are going now, after they were able to also acquire Shedeur Sanders and seeing how things have been playing out in over two weeks of OTAs now, the reports have kind of been, the drumbeat has been Shedeur looks either the best or among the best out there. So we'll see how it goes. I wanted to get back real quick to the defense before we get over into the offense side of the ball. One of the quotes from Greg Newsome during the golf outing last weekend, he said there's a big difference between this year and last year already in just the intensity of the workouts, just how guys are really buying into the program. I mean, there was none of that last year. We went up to training camp. It was soft. Guys didn't look like they knew what they were doing. And, you could see it on the field during the games, the body language, they looked defeated and confused and disheartened. And to hear, because Greg Newsome's an intensity guy. Like you said, he's a rah-rah guy. I'm going to amp everybody up around me. And to get his endorsement about what the other guys are doing, buying into the program, that's great to hear because we've seen it happen with Kevin Stefanski's offense and him running the show like before. 2020, he did it over freaking Zoom meetings. Got the team to buy in, become cohesive, and win a freaking playoff game and should have won 2 if it hadn't been for a stupid call by the refs in the Chiefs game. But then we saw it again in 2023 against all odds. The guys are getting put on IR left and right. We've got practice squad guys. Nobody knows who anybody is on the team. And yet we're out there competing every single week, making a playoff run. So it's good to hear that the Browns are getting back to that.
I think the overall energy, just even hearing the beat reporters speak about what's going on in training camp when they've been able to attend the 2 sessions that they were able to attend, it sounds much more exciting. Shedeur Sanders is bringing some of that. People are excited to talk about him. I mean, he's kind of polarizing, but in the other end of it, I mean, it's good to see him go from a point where I think he did have a couple ducks in the first one. I think he's changed up his stance a little bit, and he's throwing a little bit better balls. Like, you're supposed to improve, right? But even with Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco brings a whole other dimension. Like, people just love the way he answers questions. That trickles down to the players. The players seem excited. They seem like there's a little bit more oomph and zest in their interviews. Whether they're trying harder or not at this point right now, I think they feel like they're all building towards something. In 2023, you got the same kind of notion from players, like we're building towards something. And when you get the veterans like Njoku, Teller, and not Teller, I meant Batonio back into camp, you're going to see a whole different line from last year, because the guys that looked the worst, the guys that took it the worst, was the offensive line. Yeah. And already I'm hearing good things about the guys that are currently in camp, and we mentioned the guys that aren't there already.
Yeah, and Joel Batonio was talking last week at that golf outing about the impact that Mike Bloomgren, the new offensive line coach, is having on that unit, and how he's like, it just seemed like last year there was the guys. I don't think they respected Dorsey. I don't think they respected Dickerson. It seemed like he didn't know what the hell he was doing. There were rumors that Isvan, the assistant coach, was actually running the offensive line. I don't know what the hell Dickerson was doing, but obviously it wasn't good, didn't last. He got fired. And the energy around Bloomgren, like, he seems to be the right guy for this offensive line to get these guys back into that mauling, attacking, get out of your stance, fire out kind of attack, which is, it's exciting to hear, because yeah, a lot of people are just crapping all over this offensive line because of last year. And I get it. I know they played not great. I know they're getting older, but I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as what they looked in that offense last year.
No, I mean, how many times have I just listened to any or watched any NFL game, and you listen to the commentators and they're like, oh, this veteran lineman used that veteran move to get this guy open. There was just none of that. It was like, we're here, we're going to collect our paycheck and hope the season gets over. That's what it looked like to me. Well, I know their give a damn factor was kind of there, but just the previous year, they were just so much better.
And another thing that I hear when listening to offensive linemen talk and learning more about these position groups, especially at the NFL level, is you've got to have such confidence in the guy next to you to handle his assignment, and that, to make sure that you're focused on what you're doing. Because if somebody beside you is not doing what they're supposed to do, a la Jed freaking Wills, I think getting him off of this offensive line this year and not having him in the mix at all, that's addition by subtraction. That's the definition of addition by subtraction right there. Because Jed Wills went from a guy who looked like he had a good NFL career ahead of him to a guy who said, not only do I not feel like playing anymore, I'm just not going to play anymore. And now he's not. He's sitting out, because he can talk about the knee injury all he wants, and maybe injuries are nagging a little bit, but the dude doesn't want to play. You can't convince me on any level does he have any desire to play football anymore.
On the team last year, there was 4 anchors. One was Tony, one was Jed Wills, the other one was Dalvin Tomlinson, and then I'm forgetting my 4th anchor. Oh, Jog Thornhill. Those are the 4 anchors, and they're all gone. And we're going to be better off without them. Yeah, big time. So switching then over to the offense side of the ball, before we talk the whole quarterback discussion, I wanted to bring this up with you specifically, because last year you harped on this all offseason, all preseason, training camp, and then it carried over into the regular season, and it was a thing. Everything that you harped on before the season became the trend during the season, and it was no wide receivers catching downfield passes. Everything in camp, everything in preseason was short dump-off passes to the running back, little passes to the tight ends, and that was it. Those were like your leading receivers, and then during the season, how many times did we open box scores at the end of games, and it was Jordan Akins was the leading receiver or the second leading receiver, or David, and it was like with 60 yards or 50 yards or something. No receivers did anything. And so from all the clips that I'm seeing so far in OTAs running this offense under Stefanski, we're seeing more downfield throws. We're seeing more receivers making plays in the end zone. I mean, yeah, it's guys like Caden Davis, like you mentioned, and Keyshawn Johnson and some of these UDFA guys, but it's still receivers down the field making plays. And whenever it's a tight end, it's still down the field, or it's in the corner of the end zone making these plays. I'm not seeing these little dump off passes and things like that. Of course it is
OTAs and they're not getting a full pass rush and all that kind of stuff. I get that, but it's just encouraging to see already they're trying to push the ball. They're getting guys involved in that intermediate area of the field.
Yeah, that's part of the Tommy Rees effect, and I think that's ultimately what they wanted to do with Dorsey, but he just couldn't get his offense across and fit the guys there. Like, generally you had a Stefanski team there and you're jamming this Dorsey offense down their throat, and it just never materialized. Ultimately, what you're going to do is you're going to use the RPO game, or you're going to use play action, and then you're going to get these intermediate passes down the field, which seems like you're pushing the ball, which is what he wants to do. Now with Ken Dorsey, he was like points per minute. Like, that's also what he wanted to do, but like the spread out and making it work for Deshaun, that just didn't work out. We got Joe Flacco, who has elite processing skills. So you're making a decision at the line of scrimmage, and you're going to use that play action or that RPO to get the ball down the field. And he's making the right decisions. We didn't have quarterbacks that could do that previously. Now, Shedeur seems to be doing that. Even Gabriel, like with the numbers, like they seem okay. And they're pushing it down the field. We just don't know who's really, like, we only know what we see on the internet, right? Like, Joe's pushing it down the field and a couple other guys. Are the rest dump offs? I don't know, but that does happen in the game. So, I mean, we'll see. But when you pass to the tight end and the running back consistently, it means your receivers are not getting open, or you don't trust the offense. And that was time and time again, other than actually Richard Huntley in the preseason last year, that was happening, and they just didn't get the offense. And it seems like they're building and going towards learning this and getting open.
Yeah. You say don't trust the offense. Maybe don't know the offense, because that's what it felt like last year. I remember, again, watching games, and especially when we were up there at a couple games, it's like, okay, I'm seeing guys open. Like you're not telling me that all of a sudden it's just a different offensive scheme and a guy like Amari Cooper suddenly can't get open. Amari Cooper's getting open no matter what the scheme is. Amari Cooper's open. Jerry Jeudy is open. Deshaun Watson could not see them, did not see them, didn't know the offense, didn't know the reads, whatever. And
he bailed too fast, man.
Bailed too fast
every single time.
Yep. The only guy that trusted anything in the offense was Jameis, but DTR got in there. Same thing. Didn't know what the hell he was doing. And I mean, obviously Bailey Zappi was just a end of year, get us through this game type of thing. But it's such a better situation. We can move over to quarterbacks now, talking about them, to have these four guys, because any one of these four guys is better than anybody. And, aside from maybe Jameis last year, but, Jameis just throws a ton of picks. So I think we've upgraded the quarterback room so much, no matter how it shakes out come September. But do you want to dive into the tracker? You wanted to compare the week one tracker and but this is the stat tracker from ESPN Cleveland. This episode is brought to you by Bodden Sports. Browns fans, it's summertime. Time to get outside and take advantage of the beautiful weather and play some backyard games. Head over to boddensports.com, BADEN sports.com/dogs, and check out all their summertime gear. And for 10% off your entire order, just use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out. Now, if you guys love pickleball, Bodden Sports has all the gear you need, including a variety of paddles, balls, and complete pickleball sets with a pack and go carry case so you can play in the backyard or take it on vacation to play with the entire family. Bodden Sports also has volleyball and badminton sets, croquet, horseshoes, bocce, and even Vikings chess. And no summer break is complete without some good old-fashioned wiffle ball. Plus, Bodden has all kinds of different basketballs with special outer layers that are designed specifically for whatever surface you'll be playing on. So don't waste 1 second this summer. Head to boddensports.com/dogs to get the backyard outdoor gaming gear that your family needs, and get 10% off your entire order with promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out. That's boddensports.com/dogs. This episode is sponsored by Southern New Hampshire University. Browns fans, I can't tell you guys how many people I've known over the years who have missed out on job opportunities simply because they don't have the right degree or even have a degree at all. I mean, these are people who otherwise would have been perfect for the position they wanted, but they got turned away simply because of educational requirements. If you've ever felt stuck in a job you didn't enjoy, or you felt unqualified or unable to advance your career due to your lack of education or experience, heck, maybe you even have a degree, but now you feel like you chose the wrong major, Southern New Hampshire University could be the answer for you. Go to snhu.edu/bark, B-A-R-K, to learn how you can get started today. SNHU has programs in psychology, cybersecurity, computer science, sports management, game development, data analytics, and finance. SNHU is one of the largest online accredited universities in the United States, and their programs are radically affordable. Their online tuition rates are some of the lowest in the nation. And you might even be eligible for financial aid or have prior college credits that could fast track your degree at SNHU. And because networking is everything, your courses are taught by faculty with real world experience. So you'll have opportunities to connect with people inside the industry. And then when you graduate, SNHU will still be there to help you as you begin your job search. So if you're ready for something new, head over to snhu.edu/bark and learn how you can get started working toward your new career today.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of dived into it last week, and the tracker for the following week when the media got to get in and watch a practice. This is by ESPN. So what we found out, Flacco went 4 for 7, 0 TDs, 0 interceptions. Sanders was 9 for 14. He was 3 for 1, so 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Pickett was 9 for 15. 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and Gabriel also had no interceptions. He had 3 touchdowns, and he was 11 for 20. If you combine the two, Gabriel has got the most work. He's got 36 attempts. Pickett, I would say, has the next. He's got 31 attempts. And then it's Sanders, and then Flacco has the least at 21. Or they both had 23 and 21. So Sanders was 23 attempts, and Flacco was 21. Now, Flacco was considerably less. He had the fewest reps, so this could possibly indicate they were either resting him or just limiting his use because he knows the offense, so let's give some reps to the other guys. Pickett had a clean session. He had solid production, but he's getting a ton of reps, so we're still trying to figure out this guy. I am too. Sanders had 3 TDs, no touchdowns. He's the talk of the camp. He did get some 11-on-11 action with the second team, I believe, in the second media round, and so that was good for him. So that means he's progressing from the 7-on-7s, and then Gabriel threw the most touchdowns, but it was likely he did not I don't think he got any 1 reps this time around. I don't think. So
I think Dylan did. Well, okay. So
he did.
Nathan Zagura was on Cleveland Browns Daily, and he was talking about this. I was watching a clip, and he said that from Wednesday's OTA practice, Dylan Gabriel struggled in his first session throwing against the first team. So he did have a first team throwing session, right. And he said he struggled. So then they moved Gabriel over to the other field where Shedeur was doing his throwing session. He said then when Gabriel got to the other field, he struggled there too. He said he went 2 of 5 on that field in those drills, and Shedeur was 6 of 7. And before everybody in the comments starts freaking out about stuff, yes, I do want to reiterate, the only interception thrown per this stat tracker on Wednesday was by Shedeur Sanders, but it went off the hands of whatever receiver. I don't even know who it was, but he threw it perfect spot right off the guy's
way, right?
Yeah, like right out in front of the guy, right off his hands, bounced in the air, and it was picked. So, okay, there. I explained the interception. Now, the Dylan Gabriel interception.
Bounce.
Yeah, the only interceptions logged between these 2 dates were by the rookies. Again, Sanders' interception, not necessarily on him. Gabriel's didn't see it. I didn't see his interception, so I don't know.
His got batted down and intercepted.
No, the batted down ball actually hit the ground. If you watch the...
Oh, did it?
Yeah, I saw a video clip from the back end of that play, and it actually hits the ground. The guy just scooped it up, and it looked, from the other angle, it looked like it was picked off in the air, but it wasn't.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So I don't know where the other one came from. But again, it's all context. Like, I mean, the first time the tracker came out, every Cleveland pundit was telling us, they were just looking at the numbers. Now people are kind of getting into, okay, was this 7-on-7? Was this 11-on-11? What type of drills were they doing? We still don't know what's scripted and what's not. Right. We don't know what they're testing out and what they're doing, and you can't weigh, like if Shedeur, for example, was the only 7-7s the previous week, doesn't weigh as much as 11-on-11. It's not the same thing. There's more people on the field. Also have to know, like, who are they really targeting? Like, do they want Judy to get all the balls? Are they trying to unlock certain things in the offense? And I think the biggest thing that you need to take away from this is the actual pace, command, and pre-snap management. And most of the quarterbacks are doing a pretty good job. From what I see, like with Sanders, I think he's come a long way to get that command going. Like, the guy's in and out of the huddle, he's reading the defense, and he's getting the ball where it needs to be. It has to go to that next step, and I don't think that's going to happen with 11-on-11, like non-contact, but it's to get the play action pass down, get the RPOs down, cut the ball from center, and that's both Dylan and Sanders. I shouldn't say just Sanders, and read the defense, make your defense or pre-offensive decision. As you turn around, expect everybody where they're supposed to be and go to the right receiver. And I think those guys are doing that while they're facing the defense right now, but that's the next step. So overall, I mean, yes, it matters that the stats are where they're at, but at the stage, it doesn't really matter, man. It's the in and out of the coming out of the huddles. It's the completion percentages, which are good, but where are they going? Are they just checking down every single time? Because we're not seeing every single pass, right? Mm-hmm. And then, are you the leader? Are guys following you? That's the biggest thing you get with Shedeur. Guys seem to follow him. They love him.
They really do. And the most interesting thing from these stats that you read off when we first opened this discussion was not the touchdowns or the completions or the picks or whatever. It was how many of these team opportunities each guy got. And you said that Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel had the most, and then it was Sanders and Flacco. And some people might look at that and say, well, maybe Flacco's the odd man out, or maybe these are in a certain order. To me, I feel like it makes sense that Pickett and Gabriel are getting the most opportunities in OTAs here in June, early, before training camp. Because I feel like one of those two guys could be the odd man out. I personally think it's going to be Pickett. I think they keep Gabriel because he's got, but I think they've kind of, and this is, I have no sources. I have nothing to back this up. This is just my opinion. But I feel like it is Flacco and Sanders are locked to go into camp, and they have to determine, they can't keep all four of these guys through camp. They just can't. Which guy are they going to be trying to move? And I think they're trying to give them an extended look now because training camp's when it really matters. And, you know, Mary Kay was reporting that Shedeur was on a separate field from the other three quarterbacks, taking isolated practice reps over there by himself. To me, that says, I guarantee they're over there making sure that he's getting more and more comfortable with the under center, the play action, the turn your back to the defense, that kind of stuff, working on those types of things, because I really think it's going to be Flacco and Sanders as the top two guys.
Well, I think if you have four quarterbacks, and specifically with the Cleveland Browns, if you take a look at them, I think there's two different tiers. There's Joe and there's Sanders, and then you have Dylan and you have Kenny. And Kenny and Dylan are kind of the guys that can run the RPOs maybe a little bit more. They can run off script a little bit more. They can. They're just a little bit more. I don't want to say athletic, but maybe they just move a little bit better is what I'm trying to get at. Whereas like Joe and Shedeur, those are the guys I think that they really want to concentrate on. Because I mean, Joe is your typical prototype guy for Stefanski. He's just excellent in structure, deep play action capabilities. Whereas Sanders, he's not proven yet, but it looks to be like he can do that. He does have they both have full field vision. That's been kind of a knock on Kenny Pickett. And I just don't know. I haven't watched enough of Dylan Gabriel, to be honest with you, to make a fair assessment to him. Maybe that's where they'd like to be. But since, you know, you have the four quarterbacks, it looks like if you put them in the two tiers, you have Joe and Sanders, like I said, then if you have the other two, it's like you said, you're definitely not carrying four. You invested a little bit more, I guess you could say, as a third round pick in Dylan. So those would be your three quarterbacks, especially since they have the strong and elite arm strength, play action, or I'll say good arm strength with Flacco and Sanders.
And another thing, and again, now you guys are going to get a little insight to how my mind works, and it's not always the best way, but I go a little on the conspiratorial side of things as well. And I'm looking at, okay, so they're giving Pickett and Gabriel, additional opportunities over the other guys, especially here in front of the media. Well, those are more opportunities for, those guys to make highlight plays, to get, the Browns want to put out posts about, hey, Kenny Pickett threading the needle, getting the pass in there, to so-and-so for the touchdown. It helps with, your argument or your case if you're trying to swing a trade with a team. Maybe that's not what's going on. I don't know. I do just with this team, the way they operate, the way this front office and stuff, they're, I feel like they've always got something else going on. Look at this hand while the other hand's doing the real thing. And I don't know, but we'll see how things play out because it's going to be, like I said, mandatory minicamp this week. I expect the reps to be split up very similar to how it's been in OTAs. I don't really think there's going to be much change. Probably still no first team reps for Shedeur Sanders, at least not in front of the media, all that kind of stuff. But training camp, I do believe, is going to look a lot different.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I like putting Pickett and Gabriel together. It could be maybe you're looking for more of a West Coast offensive concept team to swing a deal with Pickett, or maybe Dylan Gabriel, maybe. Yeah.
And they're probably trying to evaluate too, which one would we rather keep? Because if they go into training camp with all four of these guys, man, opportunities are going to be very slim, because training camp, OTAs is when you're preparing for this, like, training camp. Who do we really want to focus on? Who are we trying to develop? What guys, like, now is whenever you, like Shedeur on his separate practice field, get command of the huddle, get command of the offense, get comfortable with the terminology, the verbiage, get comfortable with the reads and all that kind of stuff. I like that. I see it as a positive thing that he's taking all those reps on a separate field by himself to get more of that in under his belt, because training camp, like all this pre-stuff, we can't worry about that. The training camp, we got to get ready for the year. We got to get ready for the season. We got to get ready for preseason and all that stuff. So practice reps are going to be more critical, and I just don't think you can split those critical reps among four guys. It just doesn't work. No one's going to be ready.
No, I mean, there's enough for three. You want to get two mains, then the third, good luck. And I think just if you whittle it down to Joe, Shedeur, and Dylan Gabriel, that kind of makes it work. If something happens to Flacco, though, you just have two rookies, it's a little scary, I would say. But I mean, I think that's the way you have to go.
Yeah, me too. All right, Kenny, this has been a great conversation. Was there anything else from this past week at OTAs, either sticking with the quarterback stuff or anything else that you wanted to mention or talk about before we wrap it up?
Well, I know there was, I can't remember what it was on, but it was something about Shedeur Sanders, and it was basically setting him up for failure. And it's really for the media and the fans. And it was one of the individuals just kind of going on and talking about, this kid's just got to learn a little bit, and let him learn, he'll get there. And he's got to establish himself more under center, and just let him, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is what Andrew Barry said. Enjoy the process. Don't stick him out there for that gauntlet right away. Let him thrive. Let him get out there. He doesn't have to be QB1 from day one.
No.
He eventually will get there. Tom Brady didn't do it. I don't know. I think Prescott was the only one that was a fifth rounder that started right away. But you got to give the guy some time to develop.
No, that's why the plan, if the plan is, and if I were the Browns, I would be trying to make sure this works out pretty well. But Joe Flacco, you already know. You already know what you can do with Joe Flacco in this offense. We saw it in 2023. It's great. It's good enough to compete and probably win some ball games. Now, the thing with Joe Flacco is he can't sustain it for a 17-game season, hasn't played a full season since 2017. It's not going to happen. You know if you start with Joe Flacco, you're safe for what you want to do for the year. You're going to start out strong. You're going to compete, probably win some games, and then at some point he's going to throw too many picks. He's going to flame out a little bit, and there's going to be a natural turnover to Shedeur Sanders. It just makes way too much sense to go at it that way, because I agree with you. Shedeur does not need to start week one. And people are like, oh, the Browns throw quarterbacks out there way too early all the time and ruin them. Yeah, they do. And that's not just the Browns. That's a lot of the NFL. A lot of the NFL takes young guys, sticks them out there before they're ready, and then the book is closed on them without ever getting a fair shake. And if we want Shedeur to be the guy, or we hope he can be, what more can you ask for other than a fair shake for this kid?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I just don't want the Shedeur fans just to let the hype overrule what he actually is.
Right.
And he needs to, like, I just want to harp on this all the time. He's got to get like Joe Flacco and that comfort level with the play action game. He's just not there. There's just there'll be some mechanical inconsistencies with that. And he will get there. He's got the right work ethic. Like, you got to like what you hear. He's staying after practice. Tommy Rees was singing his praises as far as the effort that he puts in. But you got to do your homework, because as talented as he is, it's very rare that a quarterback thrives super early from the 5th round. So especially since we spoke about the receivers first for a reason, that they might not be there for him, right? And I know we had Travis Hunter in college and maybe not much else after that, but let's get him some weapons. You know what I mean? So I just want to get to the point where I'm not saying he's not good. It just might be a little bit too soon. That's it.
He's good, but he's a rookie. I think that's what you're trying to say, right? Is don't let the hype overshadow what he is, which is a rookie. And that's fine. He's allowed to be a rookie. That's what he is. So let him learn, let him develop. But I do think the opportunity is going to come for him. And I'm glad. I was just scrolling through your notes here, and I'm glad I saw this. I did want to mention that he posted a tweet the other day, and it just said, "Thank you, God, for an opportunity."
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was after what was that, Friday, right? That was after Friday's session, so not open to the media. No other explanation about it. So did he get first team, like 11-on-11 or 7-on-7 reps for the first time? Or was he told, hey, next week you're going to get some first team opportunities? I don't know. I'm speculating. But again, that was what he posted. And obviously it meant something.
Yeah, I think he's just grateful for an opportunity to be in the NFL. He seems to be a grateful, happy-go-lucky guy.
That's the thing about him. And Blake talked about this the other night, like the people that hate on him. Why? What has he ever done or said publicly that he does seem like a super optimistic, and then like the video of him dancing with Joe Flacco, he's like, I love that.
Joe's
video.
Like, I'm not having that.
He said something like, you ever hit this or something? And he's like breaking down a move. And Joe Flacco said, I don't think I've ever hit a public dance move in my life. It's like, I love that. I really do love the pairing of these two guys, because you got the young kid who's just out there having fun, super full of excitement, just ready to learn and get his opportunity. And then you've got the wily old veteran who's like, no, that's not my personality. But they work well together. You can tell they enjoy each other's company, and I love it.
Hey man, he seems to work well with everybody. He laughs, jokes. He's looks like a locker room guy. And the fans and the media, they just gotta stop overreacting to short term. And I use this word loosely. They're almost like fake highlights, because we don't know the context of what's going on. And I find that when I look at Shedeur highlights, his ball placement's great, all that kind of stuff, but you see 15 different angles of it, and it's almost like he did 15 different plays, but he's doing a great job. Just don't rush the kid.
Exactly. We can be excited without getting our expectations out over our skis too much. So I think that's a good way to end this thing. Make sure you guys let us know in the comments what you think about all this stuff from the second week of OTAs, and what are you expecting this week heading into the mandatory minicamp. Like we said, all the veterans in-house out on the field together with the rookies for really the first time that everybody is required to be there together. So it's going to be interesting. We're only going to get a small dose of it before it's all over and we've got our summer break, and then we got to find some filler stuff because there's not going to be anything on the field to talk about until the end of July. So we'll figure it out, but appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, if you want to play fantasy football with us, head to jointhedawgs.com. Join the Patreon, $5 a month. The only stipulation for fantasy, you just got to be a member of the Patreon throughout the duration of the fantasy football season. Sign up. We'll get you into a league. It's a ton of fun. Your league will be run by one of the dogs, either me, Justin, Blake, or Kenny. Maybe we'll bring John Nye back. Maybe we'll bring Zach Kopp back to run. Those are the OG dogs, by the way, if anybody's new, former hosts of the show. And we'll have a ton of fun this fantasy season. And yeah, so Kenny, thank you for jumping on here, talking OTAs, and we'll be back next week to talk about things leading into minicamp. We'll do a minicamp recap. We'll get you guys all the information and kick it off into the summer break. So we'll see you guys sometime next week. Let's go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.
This episode is sponsored by Manly Bands. Guys, is your wedding band old, outdated, or just not the same taste you had when you were younger? Or hey, maybe you're about to get married, but you don't want to deal with the salespeople at the jewelry stores. Manly Bands has the best wedding bands made specifically for men. They have the classic timeless gold and white gold styles, but they also have rings made from platinum, black zirconium, tungsten, titanium, even materials like meteorite and dinosaur bone. Yes, your wedding ring could be made from a dinosaur fossil. That is a real thing. They also have different ring collections like their Jack Daniels rings made from actual Jack Daniels whiskey barrels. They also have Lord of the Rings and DC Comics band collections. Head over to manlybands.com/dogs and take advantage of their 30% off sale with free shipping. Plus, use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out for another 10% off your order. Now, every Manly Band comes with a free silicone ring, and if you don't know your ring size, that's okay. You can order a free ring size chart from Manly Bands to make sure that you know exactly the right size before you order. And then if you get your ring and it doesn't fit just right, you can always return it or exchange it without any hassle. And I know this because I like my rings to be a little more loose, and the first band that I got was just a little too snug for the way I like to wear it. So I exchanged it, and the whole process was quick, easy, and I had my new ring in no time. And now Manly Bands is even accessorizing men beyond just your wedding rings with their chain necklaces and chain bracelets made for men by men. And if you need groomsmen gifts or anything else, Manly Bands has you covered with their barware, whiskey glasses, flasks. They even have customized coasters and flight trays. So skip the jewelry stores, avoid the salespeople, and get a wedding band that was designed for you. Manlybands.com/dogs to get 30% off, free shipping, plus get an extra 10% off when you use code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out.